Hello and welcome to Fireside History. Sorry about that. Knocked over my water bottle by accident. Anyways, uh, towards the end of Shupalumash's great reign, there occurred an incident that was completely unprecedented in all of history, and one that has had historians talking for decades. It's really the great scandal of the time period, the great uh, game changer, I guess you could say the 9/11 in some ways of the ancient world. The Zananza incident. How a single action and reaction completely changed everything. The succession of two kingdoms, the fall of pretty much almost two dynasties, and this neither Egypt nor the Hittites would ever be the same ever again. The Egyptian queen wrote a letter, several, to Shupillumish. One that said, it began with a simple statement: "My husband is dead." And once Shupillumish heard the rest of the letter read out to him, he said something which, he exclaimed something. He shouted it. And who could blame him? He said, "Such a thing has never happened to me in my whole life." And he immediately wondered, could the queen be trusted? Was she attempting to deceive him? A decision was made to send the royal chamberlain Hattusha Ziti to Egypt. The king's only instructions to him, and we know his words here from the records, was, "Go and bring me back the truth." And the queen's request is as recorded in the deeds, was baldly stated: "I have no son, but they say that you have many sons. If you would give me one of your sons, he would become my husband. I will never take a servant of mine and make him my husband." And she even goes on to say that, "I am very scared." This was shocking. We know the queen was Ankhesenamun, and she was the third eldest of Akhenaten and Nefertiti's 6 daughters. And at the time of her husband's death, the famous King Tut, or Tutankhamun, who never really reigned and was a non-person, ruled by his ministers. Now, at his death, she was probably 21 or 22 years old, 3 years or so older than Tutankhamun. And Shupillumish was immediately suspicious, and, some messengers were swapped back and forth. Now, then, as soon as, meanwhile, he ended up, while his chamberlain was in Egypt, he determined to determine the sincerity of the queen's request, before he decides whether or not to, send one of his sons to her. He ended up, we've got the primary source record of what he was up to, namely, the finishing of the siege of Carchemish. He had besieged it for 7 days, and on the 8th day, he fought a battle against it for 1 day, and took it, in a terrific battle. When he had conquered the city, since my father feared the gods, on the upper citadel, he let no one into the presence of the deity, possibly it's Kubaba, and of the deity, Lama. Question marks here in this version of the primary source that I have in front of me. We're not sure, but I'll continue. And he did not rush close to any of the temples, but from the lower town he removed the inhabitants, the silver, gold, and bronze utensils, and carried them to Hattusha. And once the city had been finally completely conquered, he installed his son Piashili, who now adopted the Hurrian throne name of Shari Kushu, as viceroy in the land of Carchemish. And it was about this time that Tushratta finally met his end. Ironically, to a group of assassins, which included his own son, Shatiwaza, and this just further wiped out the Mitanni in a way. Like, because Shetiwaza did not have the ability to properly rally them against the Hittites, who became the great power. And really, with 3 kingdoms in place, there was a balancing act between the 3. And even to an extent with 4, with Babylon as a lesser partner, able to occasionally act almost as mediator between the 3. But now there was just 2, Egypt and the Hittites. And the Hittites were clearly expanding. So on that front, you just had the Mitanni now out of the way. Assyria was now free to do what it wanted, and it was beginning to rebuild itself. And you had, in turn, a great deal of Syria now in the hands of the Hittites, and you had the Hittites trying to push further south and further east, and the thing is, Egypt's trying to push further north. So the thing is, before their border, they did share a border, but they were able to distract themselves with Mitanni. Now the Mitanni are out of the way, and they only have each other to focus on in terms of the international stage. And, well, things were about to take a turn for, well, the uglier. For the worst, I guess you could say. Pour le pire, as we say in French. So I'm going to actually conclude or at least read the primary source, a bit more of the Queen's letter and some of the other related details next time. So if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.